Hey everybody, this is Ogre with the Level 99 Discord community, and I'm here with Blue.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me, Blue. We're going to cast Relic and Snake's match tonight. As you can see on the fight card here, Snake brought Ryu, Syrus, and Zsolt, and Relic brought Enchantress, Treasure Knight, and Umina. And I think they're ready to go, so let's go over to Tabletop Simulator. So I'm waiting to see. Blue, you just asked me who I thought that they were going to first round. I don't know
That I
much
did.
about Relic. Um, I know that he's taxi meta, and that's about it.
Um, he was at Gen Con. I didn't run into him. I don't remember who he played. I think he played a lot of Monado and a lot of Umina at Gen Con, but he's not even running Monado in his team here. There's a good chance he leads with Umina or Treasure Knight, I'm thinking.
That makes sense. I'm pretty sure that from what I've seen on the on Relic stream, actually, Treasure Knight seems to be pretty popular over their way. They're valuing him pretty heavily.
He's
On
a very interesting character. I think he does play into their default style a little more than the Discord style.
Yeah, he's. I've got to get some more games into him. He's one that I think I underestimated pretty severely. Just reading over the kit, seeing him in action a little bit. He's definitely got some limitations, but there is just so much armor to try to get through. It is so tough to crack him.
Yep, he is very good at not dying. That's for sure.
I'm thinking on Snake's side, I actually did a little bit of training with Snake leading up to the tournament, and he was trying to get his Syrus back in shape, but I think he actually spent more time getting his Zsolt back up and ready.
That makes sense. Zsolt is a very strong character, but not all that easy to play at the level required to go far with him.
For sure. And I think that based on my warm up games with him and everything else that I've heard, that he's valuing that Zolt pick pretty highly going into the tournament. And rightly so. I think he knows the effect that Zolt can have and is going to lean into it a little bit. That said, he's Snake, right? So his Syrus is really good. He's been playing Syrus for a long time, and he's played Syrus into some really good people. So I think his Syrus is more seasoned than most. I'm trying to think of.
I would agree with that. He has a very, very good Cyrus.
I don't think I've seen a whole lot that struck me
Snake
as.
leads with Zsolt and Relic with Enchantress. Who do you favor in this matchup?
I think. I think I give it to Zolt, not by a lot, but by a little. Um, Enchantress has some really crazy tools, but it's never that easy to just ignore what Zolt wants to do. Ah,
I think what really seals it for Zsolt, in my head at least, is his preference for range 3 in particular. Because it's hard to escape range 3, no matter how much movement you have.
that's
And
fair.
Wild Hunt is hilarious into Enchantress, but probably not actually all that good because she can stuff it with a Rapid Beam.
Yeah, I don't know. If what I've heard about Relic's play is even close to accurate, he's no slouch. So as good as Zolt is, I feel like we can see in this matchup him giving Enchantress giving a little bit of trouble to Zolt, and I apologize for the stutter here. I'm trying to get something up and running, so we will turn the player interface off until after the game, and we will put up the card overlay. I'm
Hello,
gonna
Taxi, by the way.
try this for this stream. On the right hand side, all of Enchantress's cards. You'll see them, and on the left are Zolt's. I will do my best. I'm going to fail, but I will do my best to, as resources go down, I will remove the black indicators to the right and left of the cards, respectively, and see if I can help the viewers keep up a little bit with what's available to both fighters. So it looks like Enchantress is starting off with priority.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I dropped.
Oh no.
Did anyone else drop?
Yep, it looks like
Oh yeah, it looks like your server crashed. That's awkward.
that is very awkward. The given key was. I've never had that happen. And I don't know how D does the recovery thing.
I'm not sure either. I'm really bad with TTS. I think normally you have to save it off before the server crashes.
I don't think that happened.
Well, darn. At
I
least
think that was
they were
me.
pre-mulligan, so not much has been lost.
I'm talking with one of the players right now. Okay, they're about to hop back in. I sincerely apologize to the players and to the viewers. I am not certain what exactly on my end caused that, but hopefully it will not happen again.
That is, yeah. Hopefully there is no more interruptions.
That feels awful. I'm very new to the streaming thing, so I haven't encountered too much like that, and I I feel bad for what that does to the players. Hopefully, like you said, they were in the middle of mulliganing. I think, if I recall correctly, I think they were right at the end of the mulligan. So that that was not great. Okay, well, resuming from the game state as it was, Enchantress is going to have priority. What do you think? What is she looking to set up here? How do you manage turn one into Zsolt? Is there a particular play that you do to try to set up everything going forward, or are you just trying to get resources?
Traditionally, when Enchantress goes first, her opening is Homing Orb. It's generally unbeatable. And it's really annoying for Zsolt because he's going to get pushed to range 5 and he's going to have to use something to get back in to a range he can actually hit with things at. Zsolt has ample movement tools, to say the least, but it still is at least mildly annoying.
This is one. Actually, I was having a conversation with Snake about this earlier in the week. One of the things about Zolt is that because he can be so frustrating to play into, I don't think a whole lot of people have that much experience into him. There's a certain segment, I think, of the Discord community that played a lot during season two and have that matchup knowledge. But I think a lot of us that came afterwards, you just don't see him played that often, and so there's not a huge opportunity to really familiarize yourself with what he does, and especially given how new season four is, and you know some of the struggles that we've already seen with people in adapting to the playstyles they're bringing to the table. I wonder how much that factors into this match. I don't know, what what Zolt is valued like over in Taxi Meta, but
I don't think they have very many Zsolt mains, so it's hard for them to really judge how strong he is because they just don't have a ton of experience with him. It's not necessarily because of the like not liking him factor. I think it's just simply they don't have anyone that plays him. Yeah, Taxi just confirmed no real Zsolt mains.
So this could be a sort of a blind spot in Relic's matchup knowledge.
Single card, that's, the traditional Enchantress opener, probably. We used to have a bunch of Zsolt players, and everyone ended up dropping him. Um,
That's interesting. I wonder, can you
I
elaborate on the
used to
cause
play
for that?
Zsolt, and I dropped him. He's just not very fun. Um,
So
uh,
Tex,
Among his scene, it's because they thought he wasn't great. I definitely disagree with that sentiment.
and it could be that just he wasn't playing super well into
Focus
this.
into Homing Orb, that actually is really good for Zolts. I think that's about as ideal as you can get to defend against it. Yeah, not actually that great, nor particularly interesting to play as. They think he's better now. No one wants to play him. Generally, still think he can be shut down. I mean, you have to shut him down. That's how you beat him.
Yeah, so he's
He has
um,
fairly good tools, but some of his cards are kind of awkward, especially the ones that have his key transforms on them. He
I think
doesn't have anything that's free like Strafe Fire.
yeah, there was a conversation during the sort of roster overview that I had with D about question characters versus answer characters, and I might be evaluating it incorrectly, but I feel like Zolt's a question character. It always feels like he's not necessarily in the beginning of the match, but as soon as he has the resources necessary to flip, it it feels like you're on the back foot and you're having to come up with, here's what I do, here's how I'm going to answer this situation. Um,
I
do you think
actually
that's
tend to
roughly
call
accurate, or
I tend to call Zolt is actually a shape of character that I look for, and it's what I call Quancer characters. They have questions and answers mixed into their kit. Uh, something
nice?
like something like Fatal Eye or Gunblaze, they tend to be more answer cards. Cross up too, actually, but then like you become the question when you flip and you Hunter of Men, except the question is unanswerable. Enchantress striking with one card in hand, she has light boosted. Her range 4 threats are most of them don't really get benefit from extra speed.
Huh. So we're seeing. What do you
Zell
think
defends
about
with
that?
Gunblaze. That is okay. He'll probably draw. Get sent to super duper far range. Um, I didn't see him draw. I mean, that's the correct decision since power does nothing. With the cards he just drew in his hand, Gunblaze was a pretty okay defense at least. Not amazing, but he has the resources to come back in at least. It is Snake's Zsolt versus Relic's Enchantress. Oh yeah, your title, you need to update it, Ogre, on Twitch.
It doesn't say Snake versus Relic. My bad. I'll get that updated.
Went for a parry. It whiffed. We have both ults, Flying Charge, another Homing Orb, and Assault and Grasp in hand.
How do you feel about that hand for Enchantress? Is that something you're comfortable keeping, or do you dump that to avoid readings? We know that one's down on the Zolt side, but there's still another one floating around.
Um, this hand's kind of awkward. There's a lot of ways to get rid of those normals this turn, so it's just a matter of what option you take. I think Dark Strafe might be okay here, just to get rid of the normals and then refresh some options.
I think that was
Zsolt discards a Fanatical Purification for end of turn, it appears. That is a mildly surprising discard. Enchantress goes for the Mind Control, ditching the two known normals. Looks to be thinking about the third. This boost forces the opponent to reveal hand. It will be 3 cards from hand, and Enchantress gets to discard one of the 3 revealed. It is a very rude boost, but with a large hand like this, Zsolt can just pick the 3 lowest value options out of his hand. Considering he probably wants to take a move action anyways, it wouldn't be bad to just reveal 3 normals.
if I'm
Really
snake.
depends on what's in his hand, though. Reveal. Okay, this is interesting.
So we're seeing Assault, Fatal Eye, and is that Wild Hunt?
Uh huh. Fatal Eye or Wild Hunt seem like the correct things to discard here. Probably Wild Hunt. Because you kind of force, yeah, you kind of force the hand if you leave Fatal Eye and Assault. Because if you leave the Wild Hunt in Assault, then he can take a move action using Wild Hunt and Assault to move in 3 to range 3.
And that's definitely like he doesn't want to be at this range anymore, right? There's not really a whole lot that he can do here.
That was kind of a surprising reveal on Snake's part. His hand must be pretty great, to be frank.
So there's the eye.
Just confirming what's in Enchantress's hand. It's just 2 ults. He is safe from reading, but still has a known assault in hand. Enchantress has pretty much no threat because of the 2 cards in hand, so there's a decent chance we see move or CC. Or boosting critical tech. That actually makes sense too. Kind of awkward in this position, getting the reload into critical attack, but still not a bad boost pretty much ever.
No, it's so far. I don't really know. Like, Zolt is down health here, but it doesn't really feel like anyone has gotten any major momentum going. I guess Enchantress has accumulated 2 gauge, and Enchantress being who she is, her resource game is always going to be on point. Um,
Enchantress is slowly getting there, and the fact that Zsolt doesn't have a single transformation yet is annoying because he's already seen a lot of cards in his deck. I don't think we've seen a Whip Crack drop yet, or a Cross Up for that matter. So there's a good chance that he's been filtering for those EX transformations to not have to risk getting a strike before he pops off, as it were.
yep, that could be. And by my count, currently that is correct. No whip cracks and no cross ups have been played or spent.
That is also the kind of thing that would have forced the reveals that were shown earlier if there is some stuff in hand that he cannot risk getting discarded.
Looks like a little bit of discussion going on. Oh,
Boost the other copy of Fatal Eye. That's a little surprising, but this is getting him a little closer and filtering some more. His deck doesn't seem to be working with him. Ditches the known assaults. That makes perfect sense considering Enchantress is fresh off a reload and you don't really want to get red.
that's both copies of Assault down though. I'm not sure. I don't know how much Zolt favors that card. I don't know how big a part of his game plan it is. I assume certainly in the after he's flipped, he values it pretty heavily. Right now, if it's
It's
competing
another
with
way to gain advantage and manipulate positioning. Generally, Zolt doesn't want to actually be super close to the opponent, so it's not the best way to gain advantage when you're doing your Hunter of Men stuff, but it is a way, and a way never hurts.
What do you consider Zolt's favored range to be?
3 or 4. In a matchup like this, definitely 3. Enchantress boosts for more power. It gets
Immediately
teched.
teched.
Critical attack right now is kind of in an awkward place because it's just going to force discards, which is annoying, but they're non-random discards, and it's plus power per card drawn. So it's a very rude but able to be dealt with boost.
It seems like it's at least causing some hesitation on Snake's part. He doesn't want to. He doesn't. It doesn't seem, anyways, like he wants to commit too hard into it. I'm not certain what he would be looking for here, though.
I think he's just trying to safely filter for those transforms.
So we're seeing a reading.
There's a good chance this reading will land, considering how much of Zolt's deck. Oh, he was going to highlight his hand before he disconnected, so it looks like the reading whiffed. What do you think was red? Probably like grasp or, well, what normals are live, and then we'll work from there.
Let me real quick. That had me a little worried. So I am going to save the game quickly, just in case. It doesn't seem like it's everybody, though. It seems like that was just Snake dropping.
Yeah,
So
connection issues are kind of a struggle.
um, Zolt's available normals, if I'm keeping track correctly, are one copy of Grasp, two copies of Cross, one copy of Dive, Spike, Sweep, Focus, and Block.
So grasp is a safe pick, or dive if you play something that just stuffs dive, which a lot of things do.
I do think we know for certain that there are no known normals left at this point, right? He spent all of those as force, and that
Yeah, he
was the
dumped the known assault from the mind control, and I believe that is the only normal that has been revealed from Zolt's hand.
check in with the players, make sure everything's good.
Looks like Snake is about loaded in again.
Okay, so he whiffed. I'm gonna ask in chat what the read was.
It was not dive, so it probably was grasp. And we have EX Whip Crack in hand and a copy of Cross Up. It looks like he was filtering for those transforms.
You are correct. The read was Grasp.
It's a pretty safe call here. I think Gunblaze is the call here. Goes for the cross. Let's see what Enchantress played. Cross herself. Gunblaze was the call here. Discarding the Gunblaze and the dive. Well, the dive makes sense because it's a no normal. And the blaze, that actually is mildly interesting. I guess you don't really want to discard cross up.
You said there was one copy of Blaze of Fervor discarded.
He went for it and then he took it out of his discard. I think he's thinking about what to discard.
Ah, okay.
Discarding the cross up. Interesting. So he has EX Whip Crack. He could transform it, but I'm not sure that's the play. I now feel very strongly that that Gunblaze was the play there. He goes for the EX transform, guarantees it safely, which is fair. It would not have lost to Magic Shot, but this way you guarantee it and you don't have to risk anything.
How are you feeling about momentum at this point? It does seem like it's gone it's starting to lean pretty heavily into Enchantress's favor. Not that
It
Zolt's ever out.
is it is slipping from Zsolt. I think if he had played the Gunblaze, gone with the the same read I had on that strike, then it would be intensely in Zolt's favor. But that is not the reality we live in, and he is getting a card discarded from his hand. Which do you discard here? This is kind of awkward. Goes for the Blaze, just denying the transform, it seems. Um, I think Zolch has to CC this Fanatical, which is really unfortunate because he's out all but one Wild Hunt now for Ultras, so his filtering abilities are getting steadily worse.
Oh, I missed a copy of Wild Hunt going down then. I will update that.
There was one revealed earlier, and it's not in his hand anymore, so it had to go down sometime. Oh, the Wild Hunt was revealed off Mind Control and was discarded. It was the one discarded from Mind Control. That's when it went down.
Thank you for the update. Okay.
He goes for the prep.
Uh,
At this range, in this economy, I'm not sure that was the right play.
yeah, I don't know. I would not want to have to play into this Enchantress with the life lead is. I mean, that is what it is. A couple of advantage chains and Zolt could narrow that, but to have to play as Zolt and to have basically gone past my first shuffle with so few of the resources that you need to really leverage your game plan, it's got to feel pretty awful.
He does have press the attack, which will help a lot for landing the rest of the transformations as he sees them. But things are very awkward.
What do you do if you're Zolt? How do you bring this back? What are the moves he needs to make to try to turn it around and start pushing Enchantress back the other direction? Is there anything he can do, or is it sort of a too little, too late situation?
Land a few good reads, exceed as soon as possible, and pop off. Be as uninteractive as you can be. He still has a copy of Cross Up and I believe a copy of Blaze, if I counted right in my head. So he can still get his transforms. 4 in hands. This is a 8-speed homing orb, I'm sure.
Seems like Snake might think the same.
It is not surprising. 6-speed Fire Wave. That is also pretty uncontestable. Taxi said he's only taken 8 damage. He needs to try to not take more. I think he should throw Parry Reading and then reshuffle ASAP. That Yeah, that seems about right. There's been not very much disruption on Zolt's part, and it's been working in Enchantress's favor pretty hard.
Yeah, and at this point, she's just kind of riding that momentum. I feel like she's in a pretty cushy spot. She gets to, you know, play on curve attacks and do her thing, and doesn't have to
Uh,
worry about.
Taxi also said go hard rush down, which 100%. Zolt is sitting here way too much, and it's kind of frustrating me. But I don't know. I think he missed. I think he kind of missed his opportunity to make a really big read that would have brought him into the game when he kind of played cowardly with the cross earlier. Goes for another reading. This one is pretty high percent with the amount of cards left. Lands it into the low value magic shot. That's kind of surprising. Refreshes her hand.
Snake's running super low on options at this point.
I'm curious why he keeps resetting to 4. 4 is a range Zsolt is okay with, but not a range that Zsolt wants to end his turn at. Perhaps again, his essentially his entire set of options is known now, so I don't really know what's going on. It feels like he's just kind of giving up all of the tempo in the universe into a character whose main strength is tempo.
And it could be it could be a little bit of that. Snake's not one to tilt, but with Enchantress having been as dominant as she has been for as long as she has been, he may be feeling it a little bit.
It's possible she is a character that feels pretty awful to play into, but a lot of her really awful to play into options are gone now. This is definitely the time to be aggressing.
Still has the cross up and fervor that you mentioned. Maybe trying to look for a way that he can secure those. I don't know that.
I think he needed to take some bad trades to land them earlier. It is possible he simply didn't have them in hand, but he had at least one of each in hand before.
See Spiral Lore being boosted here.
This boost is pretty rude, but the most rude way to use it is with critical attack, and I believe both of those are down. I don't think you let this boost stay in play, so I think he needs to strike now. Luckily, both pretty much have a face-up set of options.
We see the reading.
Pretty high percent reading. What is this, Blaze? Blaze. Lands the Blaze, so that's another transform down. No advantage because he did not cross up with it, but that's some damage on deck and another transform.
That's got to feel good to at least get something out of it, right? He's had so many turns that have been negative value that getting anything done, maybe that'll help him get back into the right state of mind.
I think now is the time for Enchantress to flip.
Yeah, sitting on plenty of gauge.
She can refresh her options, probably shuffle back in the 2 Fire Waves, a Homing Orb, and a Magic Shot.
Oh man, the shuffles are gonna break my system entirely. I'm gonna have to scramble to try to get back what we're doing. Ah, okay. So, well, consider. Oh nope, can't
It
quite
looks like
decide what
Taxi
she
was.
wants to do.
It looks like Taxi's agreeing with me on now being the time to reshuffle. Well, I didn't realize that was the name of that transformation. That's really funny. Goes for strike. That
Chad, I
kinda.
apologize. I have not been good about zooming in on transformations as they come up. I'll try to be better about that.
The ones Zsolt has in play right now is when you initiate a strike, you may pay 1 force. He has both the power and the speed ones in play, so he can spend 1 force for power and 1 force for speed right now when he initiates. Plays across. That's a little surprising. I mean, I'm also a little surprised that Enchantress did what she did, but that is what it is. If cross was safe, why not go for cross up just to land it?
That's fair. Is and you don't.
Was the read like Shattering Scream? I guess the read was probably Shattering Scream. Guns? No, no. Both of his gun blazes are down.
Marco, I'm trying to keep up with what options they have available. The black dots that are to the left and right of the cards on screen, as they use options, I'm trying to remove them. So right now, a single black dot indicates one of those cards left available in hand or in deck.
I am. I'm mostly just counting in my head, but I I'm counting the same way I count when I play, which means I'm only counting high value options. Oh yeah, the time to play safe is long gone. Goes for the flip. That's not awful, but it's not great either.
So it should be revealing Wild Hunt, Cross Up, Spike, Block.
Indeed, he does. There's not really a great way to take advantage of this hand from Enchantress's side.
And she just
Goes
hits
for a
the.
strike. Is this the spicy rapid beam to force the cross up to get played evasively?
If that's you and you're the Zsolt, is that what you do?
No, you can't. I think flipping here is kind of a bad decision. It's just blocked too. Oh, it's magic shot. Draws through the reshuffle. Interesting. Draws the copy of Rapid Beam, which is pretty scary right now.
All right, chat, and unfortunately, that is, I think, going to be the end of tracking Enchantress's cards. I'll leave the interface up so that you guys can still see the cards, but it would be too difficult, I think, for me to keep up with what happened on the reshuffle. We'll
Yeah,
reset
it
that
doesn't
as we
help that
move.
there's literally ten options that are already down. Yeah, I would also agree with that, Marco. She has 9 gauge, and then the face-up card that was the last in her deck. So there are 10 options that are already down before anything even gets played on her side. Now would be a terrible time to reshuffle, but that depends on the hand quality. But just to refresh things some. She can use it to run. I think that's a tad inefficient, but does Zsolt come in? Like from this position, does he move any more than one? CCing through the reshuffle, it looks like.
That is. Did you see how much
That
force that
is
was spent?
2 plus, well, that amount.
Okay, so 5 force spent to draw 6 into the reshuffle.
And he put everything back into his deck except for the 2 things he had transformed. So he has everything up except for 1 copy of Blaze and 1 copy of Whipcrack.
Yep, and that will be, I think, the end of the interface
Goes
usefulness. So
for
we'll
kind
minimize
of a
those.
YOLO reading, but you never know.
Oh, lands it.
Oh no, that's really bad.
That, yeah, that feels rough.
It does 8 damage.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know that Zsolt is going to be able to climb back into this game.
This health disparity is too large.
I try not to count Snake out, but I just that's it's too uphill.
He he just let Enchantress do whatever she wanted. And I do think it is because he missed that read with Gunblaze.
Yeah, that was the tipping point. He was never able to get a foothold from that point further. And like you said, if he had landed that, maybe that lets him stay in it a little bit better. And at that point, like it could have all cascaded differently. So this
It
is
doesn't help that his economy got ruined there, and not only would he have gotten a hit engage and moved in to range 1, he would have also drawn cards off of that too. It would
so
have
we
been
see the fierce
incredibly high
boosted here.
value.
Oh, immediately teched
Teching
by
it.
Snake.
Is teching it the right play instead of just moving in?
I don't know honestly. I wonder what he was worried about there. It definitely feels to me like the more important way to get back into this game, if you are going to try to claw back into it, is to spend the resources you need to get to a range that you're effective.
I would agree.
Big CC.
Notably, there is actually a chance for him to make the comeback.
Okay, so this may be what we're. Yep. Gonna
Moving into
spend
range 3,
four force.
that's really good. Because if he takes 3 damage and drops to 5 or lower health, Seeing Red is live. If Seeing Red is live, Zsolt can definitely do 30 damage without ever getting hit back.
That would be extraordinary. What a. I think if I'm the Enchantress player, that feels pretty bad, but it would be really fun to watch happen.
So Enchantress's goal has to be to do exactly 2 damage and then do exactly 6 damage to Zsolt. Because if Seeing Red goes live, then the shape of this game changes tremendously.
Seeing red being the boost on Gun Blaze, I'll hover over it here.
Boost for light, Zsolt counter boosts light.
As you do.
I
Actually,
know.
the conversation here recently, how do you feel about the argument that sometimes it's better to just move into range 1 when you see the.
Not against Enchantress. That's just giving her the license to run away. But aside from matchup considerations, speed does generally matter less at range 1, as much as it's a meme to mock Taxi for saying that every single time he moves to range 1 when someone boosts light.
Is Taxi still in chat? Tax, are you still in chat?
He probably is. Marco does bring up a good point. Enchantress could also just do 8 in a turn. She is pretty capable of that. It requires boosting, though, and I think it's Zolt's job to not play into those boosts. Taxi responds with a face.
It's okay, Taxi.
Goes for another reading.
That's the third or fourth reading this game. There's been quite a few. I think it's the fourth.
Yes, this one whiffs.
We
And
see.
Zsolt has mostly garbage in hand, which is kind of bad.
Yeah.
Was it reading Grasp again?
Let's ask the players. Reading was
Read.
focus.
Interesting. Well, that actually says a lot about it. There's not really much Zsolt can do to answer that, though, with his hand. And a Wild Swing feels... A Wild Swing could be insane, but a Wild Swing could also be really bad. And there's not really a good in-between.
Marco saying play Spike.
Spike, I think
it,
literally loses to everything that Read Focus telegraphs. Goes for the Wild Swing.
outs, my dude. I don't know. I think I'm flying charge.
This is actually pretty good for him because that Gunblaze cannot miss.
So Enchantress is going to make some decisions about.
That does mean he's down a copy of Seeing Red, but if you can't stuff the option by wild swinging the Fatal Eye, at least you can trade and get some cards to refresh your hand. Maybe do like a 2-hit combo here to guarantee the cross up, depending on the end positioning that Enchantress wants to force.
Hmm. This is we could talk about something here while they make decisions. At this
Yeah,
point,
there's a lot of decisions to be made in this strike, so this will probably take a moment to resolve.
in a competitive environment, and especially if you've had a game like this, what are your thoughts on the argument of do you try to claw your way out, or do you scoop at this point to sort of save the mental energy that you're expending to or you would expend to try to claw your way out of a situation that looks pretty hopeless?
I think as Zsolt in this situation, the game is still it's borderline, but it is winnable. I think as literally any other character, the concession should have happened a bit ago.
So there's definitely there's a solid argument for past a certain point. There's a threshold, right? And that threshold adjusts depending on who you're playing and who you're playing into. But there's value to preserving just that extra little bit of your sanity over and not just sanity but also just energy in general, right? Like these games, you don't realize it until you sit down and you're playing in a competitive environment, and you just played at
Oh,
the
he got the other Seeing Red, but I guess he opted to not combo. So we are live. We are very live. He draws 5 and takes another action. Things just got real.
he would have to play out of his mind to secure it at this point. Snake is a player that can maybe do that. With the resources left, though, how do you feel? What are the odds? What do you give him?
9 cards left in deck. 11 in hand. At least one way to gain advantage, and several very safe options to play here. Presumably critting for speed.
See Enchantress respond with Spiral Orb into the Grasp.
This is almost certainly going to get stuffed. So let's see how he does it. Right now only doing 1 damage, but the armor has all been chewed through now.
Trying to decide on placement.
I think the combo here is Grasp into Cross Up into Fanatical Purification is what I would do, which requires pulling to Enchantress to center. And the end positioning there will be Zsolt in position 4 and Enchantress in position literally where she is right now, funny enough.
Let's see if that's the line Snake takes. That's one thing about trying to pilot Zsolt. We touched on it briefly earlier, but as much of a monster as he can be, thinking through all of the combinations of things that you can do once you have those resources and finding the optimal line is no easy thing.
Yeah, it's the most interesting game of solitaire that you can play. So he goes for Grasp. He goes for range 2 instead of range 1. So end positioning might be different. Let's see what he does for his combo, because he just paid for it. Also,
Marco
I just
with the
realized
cheeky "that's wrong, Minato exists."
so Grasp into Fanatical, so that is 4 damage. I just realized also the combo that I listed did not stun Enchantress, and that's important here. Discarding Wild Hunt, going for the Spike. That does stun Enchantress. Traditionally, with Zolts, you stay safe and you establish positioning that allows you to gain advantage while being safe. He gained advantage and he stayed safe. This was expensive, but he has to play at least one mix up to win this, I think. One like raw sweep landing. But with only one card in hand, this is a great opportunity to go for it. Goes for the assault. That will be 4 damage, and there's no armor to chew through here, so it's just a matter of what you combo into to be safe. I think it's important to get that cross-up transformation live, and I think it probably would have been better to do it last turn, but there's definitely arguments to be made about when is the appropriate time to get that transform after you've already flipped. But the steady loss in card advantage that you get when you don't have it in play is kind of hurting.
Seems like Snake having a little bit of trouble deciding how he wants to close this combo out.
If only he had done like a sweep or something, and he only had to do 1 damage to stun this, it would be a much more like a much stronger position for him. Goes into the cross to gain advantage and be safe, as Zsolt does. Range 4 is not amazing for Zsolt, but it's not great for Enchantress, and with 1 card in hand either. Crits for not critting, going for just a move action. That seems fair.
Trying to reset into an advantageous position.
Enchantress corners herself and refreshes her hand.
Okay,
That
so she's
makes
dangerous
perfect
again.
sense.
How do you feel about spinning that gauge there?
Gauge is Zolt's bank to continue his combos without burning out his hand. I think preserving all the resources you can is important.
D with the... Alright, D. I see you. Because it's 2020. Thanks, Marco.
I mean, Zolt's Hunter of Men is definitely the kind of guy that probably kills indiscriminately.
He certainly looks like it, right? This does not scream sane gentleman to me.
Boosts for armor and guard.
Makes it harder for Zsolt to get the safe combo stun unless he's got another spike sitting in hand.
How did Mad and Young Goblins games go, D?
Both players taking quite a bit of time to just consider their next moves. This is kind of a... I never thought I was going to say it, but Enchantress having to play safe at this point. Snake's applying enough pressure here, and the threat of the combo shutdown is enough that I think she doesn't get to just do what she was doing earlier and, you know, play things that she wants to play from her ranges without really having to fear much reprisal.
Yeah, definitely. Zsolt is steadily running out of options, which is kind of hurting.
Snake seems like... Pretty sure Prio is with Snake, right?
Mm-hmm. Enchantress boosted for armor and guard last turn.
Snake having a lot of trouble. Oh, okay. So now we're going to see the aggression, and Enchantress
Strikes,
pretty much instantly
no spend
flips
for
something.
speed. which is... It's probably I then. No reason to pay for speed on I.
Good call. Flying charge out of Enchantress.
If only he could draw while gaining advantage.
Okay, so we've got Fatal Eye at 3 power coming in over the 1 armor, but that's still 6 guard. Down to 4 if he wants to stun this. Yeah, it was a very rough early game for Zsolt.
Pays to combo into focus. That is very interesting. That... It does buy him armor.
Hmm.
Well, I guess this is awkward for Enchantress because she has to spend 2 to advance to hit him. Which means she's only going to end at range 2. Both Gunblazes are down. One was Wild Swung earlier, and the other was boosted. It was a full payout seeing red from 4 life, or from 5 life, I think.
No, I do think you're right. He was at 4 when he boosted
Yeah,
it, right?
it was 4. Yeah, it was unfortunate that he Wild Swung the other Gunblaze, but it was either Wild Swing Gunblaze or Fatal Eye to win that strike because it was into the other flying charge. So
Big 3.
you take those, as it were. Yeah, the seeing reds is pretty much the only reason why the game is even as close as it is.
Snake dropping down to 2 health.
Zolt's advantage again, because that is the name of Hunter of Men.
This is a rough spot to be in.
Is there a Fanatical Purification up? I know one has dropped.
I have entirely lost track of the player discards at this point. Let me.
If there is a Fanatical Purification up, I think now is a great time to go for cross up into Fanatical Purification.
Once this match finishes, I will grab a color before we move into the next one. I don't think that my card tracking interface is going to work well enough for right now. It's too hard to keep track of. I'll keep working on that and see if I can iterate it as something that works a little bit better and is easier to keep track of.
They are checking through options right now.
What's the dream combo for Snake from this position?
Enchantress doesn't have a source of armor or guard in hands, which is actually decently likely, and does not wild swing into one, and then cross up into Fanatical. I am not sure what else is available right now, but that'll finally get that transform live, although it's probably a little too late. But just it's 4 damage, 4+1, gains advantage, reestablishes range 3. I think all of that is really good for Zsolt.
There's the wild swing into a homing orb.
Speed ties cross up.
That feels pretty good if you're the Zsolt player.
Does he go for a combo? Is the question.
Seems like it.
Now, he does not actually have that transform in play yet. He goes for Whip Crack, so modifying positioning some. That will be in your gauge. You hit with that. He needs to gain advantage some way now, but I'm not sure if it's worth burning out hand for that.
Looks like he's definitely considering it. I'm curious to see what the rest of that hand looks like. Spinning a sweep. There it is.
All right, he does gain advantage. Spending a sweep? Hmm.
Yeah.
Man, if only he had played the sweep before, when he had health to work with.
Yeah, this I think that the everything that happened thereafter would look a whole lot different if the sweep had led into that trade. There would have been what, two less resources spent on it in order to stun out, and it would have taken one from Enchantress as well.
Enchantress is dangerously low on resources, though, which is good for Zsolt. It it might be a CC turn.
How many cards in deck for Enchantress?
3 in deck, 1 in hand. I think if Enchantress gets a turn, she exceeds and refreshes.
Well, you guys called it, and I didn't think it was possible, but sure enough, Zsolt climbed all the way back into this game. I still feel like Enchantress is in a better position. I think she can close it out more easily than Zsolt can.
If Zsolt had cards in hand, I would disagree, but as things are, I would agree with you. If only because Zsolt needs to continue laying on the pressure and he simply does not have the options to do that anymore.
Yeah, I wonder, just considering the order of combos and the way that he let those resources sort of flow through over the last few turns. Going back and looking at that later, he's probably going to be able to find a way that could have been optimized to have landed himself in a position he could close it out this turn. This is a heck of a way to start your set too. This has been a long game, and it's been, I have to imagine, draining for both players. The Enchantress went from a position of pretty total dominance to having Zsolt narrow the life lead by what was it? It was 20.
I believe 23 to 8 at one point.
Yeah. So to just
CC3. As unfortunate as that is, I believe that is the correct play here. Only 6 cards left for Zsolt to work with, but you take those.
yeah, and they're within the within those six. There should be seven damage worth if he can chain them correctly.
Enchantress going for the complete refresh with her Exceed.
Chances Succeed lets her shuffle her hand, discard pile back into her deck, and then instead of drawing cards at the end of her turn, she draws until she has 7. So there is not going to be a point pretty much for the rest of the game that Zsolt gets to take advantage of her on low resources.
Still has 3 engaged too, which is enough to afford an Ultra. Shattering Scream especially could be really annoying here. Paying presumably for speed and strike. I am a little surprised that he got rid of a dive. That is one of his ways of staying safe. But
maybe looking at the damage in hand.
It's yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult because Enchantress, there's very high odds of her having a way to stop this, but I think you do just kind of have to go for it and force her because the other option is to actually just lose.
Okay. Response placed. What do we see? Cross up
Cross
into
up into
block.
block.
Hmm. So this is an interesting situation. How does the block interaction work with the Hunter of Men combos?
When you are hit after hit effects, the same way it always does. Every time you get hit, you have a new when you are hit after hit effects.
So you can just continue as you take new comboed hits, you can spend additional force to gain that armor.
Enchantress paid 2, has 4 cards in hand. Zsolt needs to combo to not be at this position because she just tipped her hand. No taxi. Even if you're stunned, you still have block's passive, same as focus. So if Zsolt combos into Spike and then he combos into something after Spike, you can still pay for armor, and it actually still works because you only have ignore armor on Spike.
Hmm.
Block and Hunter of Men, they used to have much worse interactions, so at least we got it to this point.
Still a little bit of a nightmare to keep track of, but every little bit, right?
Yep.
For those just joining us or having shuffled in here towards the end of this match, still in game one of the set, we've got Snake into Relic, and the teams that both of them brought: Snake, Ryu, Zsolt, and I believe Syrus. And for Relic, Enchantress, Treasure Knight, and Umina.
Just backs off. Interesting. I was really expecting the homing orb there. I also think that that is, in fact, the death knell. I don't think there's a way for. There is not much of a way for Zsolt to get back in, but there is a way, it seems. To 4, I don't think that's enough. I think Zsolt doesn't have enough damage anymore.
He made a good run of it. Players seem to be discussing something. Oh no. One of our players missing a card in his deck.
Oh no.
23, 26, 27, 20, 29, 30, 31, 30.
25, 28. Yep, he is missing a card.
A dive got lost somewhere along the way.
Oh, TTS.
That feels pretty bad. I don't think that Snake was likely to come back in, but you hate to lose, or you hate to wonder if that would have affected your chances. I'm very curious where the dive was lost. Okay, and that is going to be game one.
Luckily, no more Enchantress to have to deal with.
Right? So if nothing else, you feel okay about that. Enchantress taking game one. I didn't see. Did you happen to notice? No, Taxi. It was a Enchantress. What was the last attack, Blue?
Magic shot. Zsolt got poked out, but he ran out of damage anyways. The game was over before that. It may have been worth going for like a YOLO wild hunt at some point, but it's kind of a meme.
So, Enchantress off the table. If you're Snake, you've got Ryu, Syrus, and Zsolt all available into Treasure Knight and Umina. Who do you take to get yourself some momentum back?
I think any of those is fine so long as Snake is first in the matchups. I think Ryu would be a decent pivot here because of the threat of Treasure Knight and his armor, and I think Ryu probably does pretty okay into Umina overall. Dark Thoughts is incredibly annoying, but is a card that you can live with.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how comfortable Snake is on Ryu. I have to assume fairly. I know he's played quite a bit of Street Fighter. But I've mainly played into his Sagat. So, have you had any opportunity to play into his Ryu?
I have not. I actually don't play with Snake very often. We're not around at the same time. So like a lot of the time that Snake's around, it's when I'm super duper tired. So we've played a lot like of my Marathi into someone, but not much other than that.
That's fair. And neither one of us is very familiar with Relic. Although one of the cool side effects of the Madness Meta Turna in general is a lot of the players that are from other metas besides the Discord one and the level 99 Discord one, which is where most of us spend our time. We're getting to see a lot of new faces and a lot of people that we don't regularly get to get games in with, even from the groups that we are familiar with. So I think this is a really cool way to bring some of the distant corners of our community together into one room, so to speak, just to get to meet each other and get a little bit closer.
I wholeheartedly agree. I am happy that so much of the community has come out for this tournament, and we have a lot of different metas in the tournament showing their stuff.
Absolutely. We are having some discussion from the players about the integrity of that match with a card missing from the deck. Um,
Well, Taxi's here, so I guess what's your ruling, Taxi?
the tricky thing is,
He was missing a copy of Dive, and we are not 100% sure when it disappeared. It appears to be a TTS error and not something that happened maliciously. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game, if only because,
Taxi says he knows he had it before reshuffle.
yeah, he did, because he had 28 cards in deck, and he had 2 TFs out when he CC'd into his reshuffle.
It could have been bottom card of deck. And it wouldn't have changed anything. Yeah, I'm trying to think back to any of those exchanges. All the comboed attacks, I don't necessarily think that the outcome would have been too terribly much different if he had had access to a dive. I guess the only consideration is how much damage was left in the deck after he had spent for that close. Match was ruled A-OK. Taxi cab. Pay attention. Sounds good to me. Note to self: don't delete your own cards on TTS. Yeah, that's a pretty fair rule to abide by. Okay, so our players are going to be looking to go back into blind picks. My suspicion is that Snake. The one thing that we won't see is Zsolt. I feel like
He is. They forgot to reset the timers, so the hidden area is not is still visible. He's looking through a seventh cross bag.
well, it looks like Relic has already bagged his selection up.
Um, I believe Snake did pull out Zsolt, so let's see what we get from Relic. Zsolt into treasure.
I would not have thunk it.
Well, the good news is a lot of treasures shenanigans require him to take a turn, so the amount of armor you have to shoot through is a bit less than it would have been otherwise.
Alright, so let's get back over into TTS and get our card updated. So for Relic, we are seeing treasure. And for
So treasure is a tanky, somewhat slower fighter, which is really great for Zsolt because it means he can more easily land some of his key transformations into Treasure Knight.
apologies to chat for having the fights progressing from bottom to top. Whenever I was trying to get something set up earlier, I did it in the wrong order, and I didn't want to go back and reset. So hopefully it is clear enough that Enchantress into Zsolt was game 1 with Enchantress taking it, and we are moving into Treasure v Zsolt for game 2 of the match.
Zsolt taking second and mulliganing for it looked like. Interesting that he gives Treasure the opportunity to go first. Let's see if it pays off.
I wonder if he feeling a little bit burned about how difficult
Goes
it
for
was
the
for him
opening parry. Parry cross. No, parry whip crack.
lands it.
That makes sense. That is the push and pull of going second as a seventh cross character, as you get a deeper mulligan, but you also broadcast to more of your hands. Unfortunately, it appears he did not draw into a transformation to put out turn one.
Yep, and that's probably his motivation for going second, taking the larger hand, right? After having been burned by oh, real quick. Life Snake. Snake forgot to reset his life total. With how the difficulty that he had getting his transformations online in game 1, maybe he decided he wanted to try to go for something a little bit safer this go around. Treasure boosting speed. That's interesting. What do you think he's threatening here?
You're going anchor. I think boosting speed at this range is really good. This is an awkward range for Zoltz and a much less awkward range for, well, one of Treasure's least awkward ranges is probably a good way to put it. Parry, probably anchor shot. It appears to have been setting up for a treasure coin.
So now that that's known information, if you're Zsolt, do you just run in, or seeing the rest of that hand, does that give you pause? Anchor shot was the parry target.
Got him. Well, treasure coin is a lot easier to cover, even though it's 5 speed. because it loses to cross and cross up. Using a cross up in that manner is painful, but sometimes you got to take those. Going for a reading, presumably reading focus, if I had to guess, just to get it out of the hand if he has it and was setting up for it.
Reading
Reading
was
sweep,
sweep.
interesting. And he has EX cross up in hand, so he definitely doesn't play that. Um,
EX cross up, EX dive, grass
so
block, wild hunt.
with the coin that is presumably being played here, EX dive loses to that, so you probably block this. Block this, discarding like Wild Hunt, and then EX Transform cross up next turn.
Let's see if Snake catches that.
I mean, it is also possible that my call is not the right call. He does go for the block, and Relic does in fact go for the treasure coin. He has to spend one force to hit with it, and may also spend one extra force on top of that to do an extra damage.
He does indeed, getting rid of the known assault and scuttle slam. Snake spending the grasp out of hand in order to bring that damage down to 1.
So what is the last known card in hand?
Let me check. Block was spent. Focus was spent. Was the assault spent?
I am not 100% sure.
Coin was spent. Slam was spent. Okay, so it should be an assault left in Treasure's hand.
I am surprised he didn't just slam EX dive to get the free 6 damage. I mean, I guess techs are good into Treasure Knight, but face up techs? Or even. Nah, that probably wouldn't be worth it. Oh, it was block. That actually does change things. Even then. Nah, the block is 4 armor. I don't love leaving dives, the known dives in hand, even though I guess it is kind of hard to punish EX dive.
See consecutive preps here. Snake looking like he wants another. Yep. He is on 8 cards in hand, so we'll see a discard of Spike. Okay, so Relic looks like
Goes
Relic's forcing
for
the dive.
Yeah, goes for another reading. Reading dive would be pretty okay here. It does go for the reading dive. Response with EX dive into a sweep. That's not too bad, all things considered.
Relic hits an eye for the discard.
I don't think Zsolt cares about discard order, but technically the eye should have hit after the dive hit, but whatever.
I'm trying to think. I can't recall anything in his kit that references it. So, reading the block.
Playing a sweep, interesting. Even with no force expenditure, that's only going to do 2 damage. Did snipe an ultra though, which is pretty good.
Yep. And Treasure takes takes the 2. Chooses not to spend the last card in hand.
Treasure set up to exceed. Treasure goes for the exceed. Treasure Knight's exceed is exceptionally good. Pulls Zolt's into the corner at range 2. At range 1, not at all.
And now for the rest of the game, whenever spinning force, the first force generated is free. This is everything. So Treasure Knight is seeing a huge jump in economy.
Mm-hmm. Zsolt is in a goes right for the flip. Um, yeah, I was gonna say Zsolt is in a better position this game than he was last. He has the transform on cross up, which is the one that allows him to put on pressure a lot more effectively. CC4 to fill up that hand. We got a real game, boys.
This should be interesting. The he won't have as easy a time comboing out with as much defensive stats as Treasure Knight can throw on top of everything. But
A lot of that is on Treasure Knight's boosts, is something to remember, which means if Zsolt is actively comboing him, Treasure doesn't get an opportunity to boost.
okay, very fair. So maybe in this case, the better position on Exceed, see Treasure running to get some distance between him and Zolt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, changed his mind a little bit. Maybe wants to be at range 2 instead. See, okay, yep.
2 is pretty solidly a better range for Treasure than 3 in this matchup.
Instant attack coming out from Snake, so something he feels pretty good about at this range.
A
Into
wild
the
swing
wild swing.
from Treasure into Aquamine. Interesting. Only 2 damage, but the Aquamine will almost certainly be stuffed probably by a spike, the famous Eye Spike combo.
We see Zolt drawing a card there because of the transformation on Battle Fugue. The first time each strike you gain advantage, draw a card. And the eye is going to give advantage on hit.
Mm-hmm.
Snake deciding what he wants to combo into here. Spinning the sweep again. Snake doesn't value the sweep too terribly much as an attack, does he?
It appears not, which it's into grasp. Okay, that was kind of surprising. Playing Gunblaze there also was kind of shocking because it's one of your ways to get a reload, one of your ways to yeah, it's one of your ways to get a reload and one of your ways to get a bit more damage and because Zolts very much can run into damage issues if you're just trying to play him as safely as possible.
Probably telegraphing that there wasn't a better way in hand to shut out the Aquamine.
Yeah, backing up to 4. That's interesting. Traditionally, Zolt likes to have 3 cards engage to be able to spend for speed, which, to be fair, he doesn't have that transform yet, into being able to do both parts of the combo without actually spending anything from hand. That is actually something that Snake has been running into some issues with, is having to spend resources from hand to continue his combos, which has been kind of blowing out his resources. I definitely think that goes for a prep. I definitely think that Snake should be playing more sweeps. Sweep is a noted good card, and it is a good way to do damage.
Treasure boost Sunken Treasure. +2 power, and at the start of the opponent's turn, this is an interesting boost. At the start of your opponent's turn, place the top card of your deck face down under this boost. When this boost leaves play, add all cards under it to your hand. So the
Hmm.
longer that the opponent takes to react to this, the more of a return it's going to give you.
Being that Zsolt is at range 5 right now, which is a place that Zsolt does not have any cards that hit, his options are somewhat limited to deny that boost this turn. He does notably have a boost that allows him to move and take another action, but he already spent at least one copy of it. It is on Wild Hunt. And there is the other Wild Hunt. Moving to range 4. If he has Whip Crack or Blaze of Fervor, presumably those are the plays.
And I don't think have we seen any anchor launch out of Treasure Knight so far?
Not yet, I don't think. Zolt's just going for move 1 and prep.
I wonder if Treasure is going to probably not going to take any aggressive action this turn, right? You want to do something else to set up and then let your cards continue to accumulate, but maybe not going to want to give Zsolt the chance to initiate an attack on his next turn.
Hard to say. I think just something that makes it harder for Zoltz to put himself into a position to be safe would be good. Just going for a prep. That
Okay.
isn't too terrible considering he will be getting another card from that.
Yeah, make sure they remember that actually. There we go. Okay, so like you called out, if you're Snake here, you probably want. Well, I don't know. Do you want the Whip Crack here, or do you want the Blaze of Fervor?
The ideal here would be Whip Crack. The answers to it are limited from Treasure's side. And if you have Whip Crack and Blaze in hand, you can do Whip Crack to pull them, or just prepping again
Another prep. So maybe trying to
to
set up
establish
a.
positioning where you can also hit with Blaze and get all of your transforms or potential discarding a Gunblaze.
Gunblaze
Interesting.
discarded.
What is he filtering for?
Seems like he's trying to set up one long string, but I don't know. Maybe counting on the reshuffle, structuring his hand engage in such a way that when he reshuffles, he's likely to hit those gun blazes on a lower health total where he can use them. But
Well, one of them is stuck in his gauge right now, so he definitely needs to um he needs to spend it from his gauge.
the more turns he spends here, as we discussed, the more cards Treasure is going to get for free on that boost. I don't know. I don't know how concerned he is. Oh, Treasure choosing not to let it go on any longer.
Um, have you been counting Treasure's cards? How many copies of Dive and Anchor Launch are available?
I'm not certain.
I think if he has Blaze, which he has Blaze, as long as a single copy of Blaze is up, then Blaze is probably the play here. Blaze gets played, stuffs the dive for 4. Let's see if he goes into a combo. That does not gain advantage notably, so he will not be drawing. I think I don't super value the transform on Blaze. I probably should value it more now that I think about it because we were just talking a bunch about Zolt's damage issues, but
You look for your damage in other ways. Looks like Snake is going to take the transformation there over the gauge. Thinking
that is
about
probably
comboing.
I think
Oh,
comboing is probably okay in this situation, just to stack some more damage on, especially since this is a very safe opportunity to just get some more stuff going into a whip crack. Please, please play whip crack.
looks like. Why is he?
Going for a prep. Was whip crack like bottom?
Last two cards drawn were Whipcrack and Cross, I believe.
That is unfortunate. It would be really nice to have 3 gauge here, if only to play Fanatical Purification as an attack.
See treasure boosting Anchor Zip. Move up to 4 and then draw 2 cards.
Moving right into his face and filtering for some cards.
Note that though Anchor Zip does have a force cost because Treasure Knight is exceeded, that force cost is discounted. It is in
Mm-hmm.
every instance, or the first instance of each. So, see, dive going down. Things move kind of quickly. How did you feel about the Treasure Knight initiating with a dive into range 4 Zsolt? That seemed kind of risky to me.
That felt distinctly like a mistake. But it's pretty easy to forget that Zsolt actually does have an above curve option at 4.
What do you think he was trying to get past there? Just thinking it was going to be the whip crack?
I'm not sure. Because there wasn't any defensive options for Zoltz to play into that dive with.
It's at range 4, so he wasn't planning on dodging.
Boosts for defense, which makes a decent amount of sense, but also is somewhat painful to see one copy of Gunblaze drop, but this does not feel like a seeing red kind of game. Next combo is looking to be something along the lines of EX Assault cross Whipcrack. Combo after that is probably
How many cards do we have in Snake's deck, Blue?
18.
Okay. Just thought I would check.
Yeah, it's all there.
Apparently, Snake agreed with me and also checked.
So this is kind of an awkward and scary position to be in because Zolt is threatening a very safe confirm into pretty much exactly what he wants.
If you're Treasure, do you try to just step out? Or do you try to set up enough defensive stats to maybe be alright through it?
Um, well, the combo that is being telegraphed here, just from the open hand, is pretty much perfectly safe. And there is not really a range where you can make it not perfectly safe.
Taxi in chat says defensive stats, in his opinion, tank hard. Seems like Treasure agrees, throwing down a copy of Defend.
I need to refresh my chat window because it is not updating anymore.
Taxi, go for deck out. Taxi, that is a very you answer to this situation, sir. The answer is always deck out. Of course it is. Quick shout out while our players are thinking. Thank you to Taxi for organizing the Madness Meta Tournament. Or, excuse me, the Madness Matchup. Matchup Madness. I can't speak. The Matchup Madness Tournament. we're watching here. Um, great
Zsolt
opportunity.
appearing to strike with an EX attack,
Continue that short
um,
out of that shout out here in a little while. So that's the
paying
assault.
4 power. This is essentially face up, but that is a 6 power, 2 armor, and 4 guard assault at 6 speed. It no matter how face up it is, that is pretty much as correct as a decision as you can make.
Treasure having a little bit of a tough time deciding how to respond here, I think.
Going for an anchor launch just to screw with positioning and be generally annoying. So Zsolt does gain advantage, so he draws another card.
Getting
3
4
armor,
damage in over the
so
armor.
it should be 3 because he has 3 armor. One from defend and 2 from anchor launch.
Treasure was at 14, right? Or was he at 13?
He was at 13.
Okay.
I think the combo that I was describing earlier, cross into whip crack, is probably still the play, but it's hard to say because you are gaining advantage and you are safe, and positioning isn't going to be that bad for Zsolt, all things considered.
Looks like the players are actually discussing that thing now, marking out where Treasure would wind up. And yeah, Snake deciding not to continue the combo any further, letting Treasure corner himself.
Checking over the 10 cards that Treasure has available to him at this time. Probably going for the whip crack, maybe the blaze. Blaze is safer but less rewarding here, going for the whip crack into Aquamine, which is really funny because whip crack has after move 1 on it. So it doesn't really matter because if you just want to go for whip crack, you just push and then advance. There is probably still plays to be made here because combos are to be had. Got to make sure you gain advantage after all, and there is the eye. 1 more damage, which is pretty decent.
Card drawn off of Battle Fugue.
Mm-hmm. Transforming whip crack. Let's see if he goes for a third just to have another engage. In this position with these health totals, I don't think there is. Well, Taxi, Treasure can reshuffle. It's a matter of whether Treasure will have the opportunity to reshuffle.
Oh, man.
4 damage eye. I think this might be it.
Did the player. Was Relic at 7?
He was at 6.
Okay.
So yeah, you just mash out the combo, and that is it.
GG. Snake comes back and takes it in game 2, getting the run back on Zsolt.
Very definitive, and that actually felt a lot more like how I expected things to go in this matchup. When you're in the nonsense Dante from the Devil May Cry series combo mode, and your opponent is relying on boosts, they kind of cry.
We'll drop back out to the fight card while we wait on them to get set up for the next match.
So what do you expect now that Enchantress and Zsolt are down for both sides? I think Snake pivots into Syrus here. I think his Syrus is probably better than his Ryu, all things considered.
Yeah.
And Relic has Treasure Knight, and what is his third? Umina?
Yep.
I think Syrus. I think both do okay into both of those characters, so it's just kind of your flavor of which of these characters am I better at into these two matchups. And I think Syrus, the benefit of having the Lord of the Deep, having +1 power from that, and then having +1 power from that transform is really, really nice. You basically get to pretend you're Heidi from Red Horizon, which that sustained damage is very, very good into Treasure Knight to eat through his armor. Obviously, Ryu has multiple sources of ignore armor, and they're among the rudest cards and boosts on the planet. But if your Syrus is stronger and that sustained damage is as good as the multiple sources of ignore armor that Ryu has, I think that's probably the character you bet on.
Yeah, of the two, I mean, not to discount Snake's ability to play Ryu because I'm actually fairly certain he's got a decent chunk of games in with Ryu, but I do think he has more in with Syrus, and I personally had the opportunity to watch Snake play Syrus at his best a few times, and it's terrifying, right? Like he uses the kit exactly in the way that is worst for the person across the table. Um, I will say that in conversations with Snake leading up to the tournament, he wasn't quite vibing with Syrus in the way that he has in the past. I'm not sure if he overcame that in the time between when we spoke about it and the actual tournament start, because he still took the character. So obviously not feeling
Yeah,
too bad
and
about it.
he took Syrus and Ryu over Sagat, which is another one of his mains that is very well feared. Oh, Snake also did used to play Umina, which is invaluable experience when you're trying to dismantle someone else's Umina.
For sure. I can say kind of along the same line. As Snake was training up and trying to decide who he was going to take for his tournament roster, a large part of the decision at the end, near as I can tell, is not necessarily who he had the most mechanical experience with, but who in the week or two lead up to the tournament, as he played matches, who was feeling like it was like they were clicking for him.
That makes
Because
sense.
it's been a while since he came back to some of these, and like Zsolt was sort of a last minute switch up. He wasn't going to bring him, and then he played some Zsolt, and Zsolt was, to quote him, really vibing with him, and he felt like he was leveraging the kit in a way that just felt good, and that's what powered the decision to bring him on the team.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty
I
sure
hope
Zolt
that
kicks Sagat actually.
I'm hoping that as Snake plays more in the tournament, his ults play looks a bit more polished because I think he has been giving up a bit too much tempo, at least in this set.
Okay, our players have chosen their fighters, and you called it. It is going to be Syrus, and Relic is choosing to do the run back on Treasure. So you commented briefly on how you thought this was going to go, the resources that are available to Cyrus to sort of punish what Treasure wants to do.
I think Cyrus's biggest advantage in this matchup is actually very similar to what Zolt's biggest advantage in this matchup is, and that is simply that Cyrus can do a lot of things in a single turn. His turns are going to be all very high value, and when he gets rolling, those turns are going to involve hitting pretty decently hard. Which the early game, you kind of there might be some licks that will need to be taken because Cyrus's early game damage is kind of lacking, but he makes up for it in spades if he's able to get those transforms live. Taxi says he's not a fan of the treasure picks. Hey man, sometimes people are out here trying to play for fun, dude. I also am, for the record, surprised that we didn't see a Umina pivot in this game. I guess maybe the read was Syrus, like the Syrus switch, and he feels more comfortable playing treasure into Syrus rather than Umina into Cyrus.
I
But I'm not sure. We would have to ask Relic about that after the set.
If I recall correctly, and Taxi, you can confirm for us, hasn't Relic been playing a fair bit of Treasure for y'all's local events here recently? Maybe it's just an issue of relative freshness with.
Um, Relic seems to be a fan of novel new characters. I know he at one point picked up Dan. He just seems to really love learning new characters, especially ones that have interesting gimmicks associated with them.
Okay, so we've got. I'm not sure why they discarded the parry. Did you catch what happened there?
Um, no, I didn't. Treasure going for a strike. Well, the good news is Cyrus's above curve option does not
Okay, that
does
was a
not
mistake.
completely stuff does not completely stuff Treasure Knight. The bad news is Cyrus has a 2 to 5 spike. He goes for the above curve option, stuffing a dive. That is very good. That is exceptionally good for Cyrus.
And
He
yeah, the reckless greed transformation. Snake and I spent quite a bit of time talking about this. Um,
excellent, excellent transformation.
it's so good, and it feels. Oh wow.
Shotguns out Albatross Talon to get that amazing transformation live turn 2. This is very scary. He could literally exceed right now. He
That
can't
feels
literally
like
exceed right now. It's a 6 gauge flip. I am sorry, but oh my god, this is already a very advanced game state.
Yeah, that feels like an insane opening for Cyrus. I would love to be in that position.
No Talon is kind of awkward into Treasure Knight because the threat of Ignore Guard at 2 to 5 actually can keep Treasure kind of honest. But I think it's worth it, specifically because he didn't have to risk anything. No mix-ups.
See Cyrus boosting light.
This is very scary because if that light stays in play, like we could get parry C hand strike or something even more disgusting.
Yep, one parry down, so still one left in the deck. Low odds that he has it, but stranger things have happened. Um, Having been playing a lot of Cyrus myself recently. Oh, what do we see? Parry target here. Whatever it was, whiffed. Hand
That is a hand of
is.
normals, kind of awkward. CCing everything but the block, that is probably okay, all things considered. You don't really want to get rid of that parry. It's pretty high value. Tidal World, that makes sense.
Treasure trying to decide how to respond here. Reading
Going
probably the
for
block.
reading just to get it out. Hitting Anchor Launch, that's essentially big ol' sweep it. Um, range 4. Validates it using his UA. That is one of the few unfair things that Treasure can do. Getting a Treasure Hunter sniped. He has not paid anything yet, as far as I can tell, and has not taken damage. I kind of wish they would not clean up strikes so fast, especially while things are still being resolved. Or did he pay? No, it looks like he paid. He had a larger hand before.
I'm not certain what he paid with.
At least one copy of Sweep. No, wait, no, wait. That was the one that was boosted.
Uh, okay. Winding back a little bit here.
So I think it's definitely important to minimize damage, here, and get that parry into gauge.
I
Noted
think
noted bad exceed player Snake. So I actually know Zsolt pretty well, but I am much less versed in Syrus, so you're definitely going to have to help me along a little bit because I only know so much. I know losing the treasure hunter kind of
I
feels
don't
bad,
feel
but ditching a dive, interesting.
I don't feel if I'm him, I don't feel super bad about the treasure hunter being lost. It doesn't feel great to lose it, but there are other cards that I am definitely more attached to. Um, in this matchup, I haven't had an opportunity to play it. Syrus into Treasure Knight, so I might be misevaluating it. Um, it's generally a card that I don't like early to begin with, and that might be me having to shake some of the rust off with Syrus in general and not giving it enough early game value. Um, there are other things that I want to see in the first half of the game. Treasure Hunter is one that I don't really like to have to try to leverage until later on when there's more known information and I can kind of plan a safer route to playing it.
That makes sense. I mean, it's a wacky mid speed, so you know I'm in love with the shape of it. In this matchup in particular, it feels reasonably high value because the snipes gauge before treasure flips.
That feels good if you're Syrus.
That feels really great. The question is does he have a Siren Call in hand, and is he willing to eat an Anchor Launch to play it? Boost for
Light.
speed.
Okay. Hmm. Am I misremembering? No, anchor launch is 2.
What's up?
Timing suit. I was trying to see what he's trying to make safer with the light, and I'm not really sure at this range, unless he's planning on moving in.
Um, he could just be planning on moving in. Actually, move in and then going for a parry, getting the treasure coin out of hand. That makes sense. Moving in would be pretty good here because you could do like move in, discard it, and then like play a spike.
Note for those that aren't aware, Syrus has the Memories from the Deep transformation in play, which lets him play instant boosts from Gauge as though they were in his hand. After the boost is resolved, it is sealed. So the parry for Treasure Coin came from his Gauge and has now been sealed. So that is one block sealed.
And a note for Lord of the Deep, which has not come out yet, but I do have a very strong feeling will come out sooner or later. Um, when you are in Lord of the Deep and you use an instant boost from your Gauge, you can choose to flip it face down to get the now move 1 before it is sealed. It is your choice on the order in which those resolve. It does not matter for Front Cyrus, but it is. Those are some bad
Oh.
invalidations.
Ah!
And humorously, he is stunned, so he will get pulled to. Oh no, actually, yeah, he is stunned, so he will get pulled to range 2, which isn't amazing for Syrus, but also now he has all the transformations live, and he can cosplay as Exceed Heidi if he wants to. For those that were not around during the glory days of Season 1, Exceed Heidi's effect is when you have a continuous boost in play, you have +2 power. It is an amazingly strong
Both copies of
Exceed
Treasure Hunter
ability.
down now.
Yep, Treasure Hunter getting stuffed by a Scuttle Slam. Not the worst, considering the amazing shape that Syrus is in here.
Yeah, I don't feel too bad about that. The I don't think the Treasure Knight would have played anything else there, and I'm not sure what the status on sweeps is. I don't think most of the time you initiate with a sweep at 2, but there's a few things that they.
Snake really loves stitching sweeps, and he actually boosted both already for light.
I Yeah, I don't know. That's got to be something that he's labbed out. I overvalue sweep. I don't know. I think I am much more careful about um, how I choose to utilize sweep as a card. The light boost is obviously super powerful, and it can do a lot of things for you. But I do feel that there's a whole lot of value lost if you apply light to an attack and don't set yourself up in a situation you can really capitalize on that speed. Um,
Riptide, let's go. This is very exciting.
Riptide 2, you know you want to do it.
That would be really funny. It wouldn't even be that bad. What's really exciting about this is
Yeah.
he could completely fill up his hand, and because of the fully live Syrus that we are witnessing right now, he also can discard one of these face downs from play after boosting something like Fierce, and have essentially a +3 power now strike attached to this hand refill that we got going on here. This also feels like a pretty good reading setup, assuming he has a reading available still.
He should. I don't recall seeing. Actually, I don't
Snake
recall
was
seeing.
just Snake was just eyeing his Exceed mode. His Cyrus's Exceed mode is amazing. It's
I think he's trying to decide whether or not he wants to discard one of these to scoot right into an attack,
oh
or
well,
did he
he
already
still has
pass
another
priority?
action, so he can still boost. Just discard one. Like he can still put some stats
Oh,
onto
yep,
this
you're right.
before
Sorry,
striking.
I completely spaced on the bonus action from Riptide. There's the
He is
reading.
going for the old Cyrus double Riptide reading setup, which high percent readings are always very hype.
See if I can get what the call was.
Whatever it was,
Whiffed.
it whiffed. Reading
Assault.
Assault, that feels like a Tidal Whirl then. Tidal Whirl will do 4 damage here. Sweep trades into it. There's a few things that can trade into it in this hand, but I think if that's the read, Sweep is a pretty good play here. Do you have any reads in particular on what Cyrus played?
I'm a little confused, honestly. I'm hoping that it's not an assault of his own. I can't remember if assault is down.
I don't
Um,
feel too bad about Assault here, although Assault obviously can get stuffed if that is the read. Going for the EX dive charge, and it was Tidal Whirl. My read was correct. That feels pretty good. Plus power due to the transform on Siren Call Opulence, so that it will be a 4 power Tidal Whirl into 1 armor, dealing 3 damage, and then Treasure comes in and does 7. But Cyrus now has a lot more gauge to work with. Still have not seen any of the other alts go down, so Cyrus could potentially teleport to range 3 and do some shenanigans.
yeah, and important to note now, because of the boost that we've been discussing earlier, the memories from the deep. He now has a copy of Parry and a copy of Reading that are just sitting there waiting for him to use whenever he feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And reading is good. Reading into a known hand is better. Um, that's one of
And
the.
treasure ops to strike, which means that we might get a guaranteed reading. This is probably like the sweep, but it could also be the cross. Let's see
Treasure
what Cyrus
spawn.
plays. It would have felt really good to be able to land a guaranteed treasure hunter into like reading spike. Plays a grasp into sweep. Takes damage, but depending on what gets discarded from hand, like there still is a spike and a cross in that hand. Cyrus very well could be able to stuff either of those options, depending.
Do you remember what the full revealed hand was? I don't remember all the normals in it.
Snake luckily wrote it down, so the sweep was played, and EX charge was played, so Spike and Cross are still in that hand, along with Treasure Coin, Aquamine, and Surf Slam. Or Scuttle Slam.
Syrus pretty low hand here, but does have two Riptides sitting engaged, so if he needs to do a refill in order to capitalize, he certainly will. I don't think Snake super values Dredge Fury as an attack, so he'll be more than willing to spend it as a boost, even sealing it.
Sorry, I had to step away for a second. I heard you say Dredge Fury goes for the parry. Interesting. Well, Treasure Coin is an annoying attack, so it's not the worst, but that also means he didn't have a way to punish the spike in hand. Feels kind of bad because that actually could have evened up this health deficit.
Yeah, it was the sweep is what did him in. Probably the plan was read Spike, play Assault. Um, Now Treasure's going to get an opportunity to dump those known normals.
Syrus could be really funny and mildly rude and read the cross anyways and just force him to go away.
Yeah,
It
I
would
mean
be.
honestly, it's a pretty. Oh, okay.
Oh, he probably has title in hand then.
So that's going to hit 4. Will not be enough to. Oh no, it will be enough to stun by 1.
Yeah, Reggie. Relic is running Treasure and Snake is running Syrus. The set is 1-1 right now. This is for all the marbles.
No, it didn't stun. I was right the first time. They confused me when they run it
Yeah.
back.
So
Both talons are down. I mean, you don't
really
hate being
funny
at this
and
range if you're Cyrus, but you hate the options you have left at this range.
that was really funny and mildly rude. So there's that. Pulls in so that they both have options that hit, presumably. Um,
I'm I'm a little surprised. What's happening?
I am looking at Cyrus's gauge, and I feel pretty okay about some of these being left in there. But I think it's a good opportunity to CC some of these out of the gauge and back into your deck for the reshuffle.
Yeah, and I,
Don't really want to have title rolls locked away in your gauge. And the grasp also is decently valuable, just as a 0 force +3 power boost.
I may be misreading the situation here. If I'm Snake, I think I want to exceed while I'm at this range, and there's not a whole lot that I know Treasure can do. I'm not. I think there's a copy of Anchor Launch that is left live.
Yeah,
Um,
I think now is an okay opportunity to exceed. I don't really love the idea of eating an anchor shot, but sometimes you take those. I still like just seeing probably a dredge and then both titles and grasp back into your deck and into reshuffle. But that also depends on the availability of readings and what is actually left in the deck.
Looks like Snake is having trouble deciding what he wants to do as well. There's the
Goes
flip.
for the flip. The flip is
Yeah,
definitely not a bad decision.
having flip and having that set of boosts engage to leverage into attack strings feels really good.
That it does.
There's a run engage which translates to close 4 if he really wants it to. Um, what do we see here? Redistribute.
Redistribute to grab the anchor launch back from Gage, and is it from deck, or was that from the top of his discard? Going
Yeah,
for
certainly.
Riptide? Oh, this is funny. Yeah, going for the full like moving in. Is he gonna try to force a reading?
We've seen one. See no talons. We've seen one aria. Have we seen both arias? I think we've only seen one. I don't know here, honestly.
Man, all of Cyrus's boosts are written very carefully. They're kind of enjoyable to read.
I'm trying to think of what situation I would want to leave myself in here at the end of this turn if I'm Syrus, and without knowing the shit. Oh, second Riptide. Okay, both of those sealed away for one card.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't want to draw through
So
his reshuffle, presumably, because of what's left in his gauge. No, he's.
is he? Let's see what this hand is. Not revealing.
I think he's thinking about a lot of different factors here because he has the choice to move, and also, even though he already drew it, he knows what that card is, so he could be thinking about drawing more. Is there still an Aria in that hand? I don't think I saw the second Aria ever after the first one
Yeah,
opening.
I think there should be one left. Not sure what they're considering here. Frantic waving hands leads me to believe it's something.
Relic, I think, is still also thinking on how many he wants to draw because, like, there are readings available. You don't really want to hand a reading.
Yeah, that's fair. Ah, okay. Snake deciding if he wants to take the move or not.
So he does end up drawing one. That honestly seems correct because you don't really want to lock away some of these high value options in your gauge going into your shuffle.
I am not certain. I don't know how I feel about that. It depends on how he follows it up, but
Did Relic opt to draw zero? That honestly seems correct if he did.
he did opt to draw zero. I didn't see him put any in hand. Man, I'm really curious about the thought process behind using Riptide for that. Maybe hoping that Treasure was going to draw three, and then the follow up would have been Focus if he had. But Treasure opting out of that means that that feels pretty low value.
I think I think now is still a good time. You've established a position that is better for you. I think now is still a good time to just kind of get some filtering going on, seeing some of these options from Gauge, which appears to be the plan. Like leaving the readings in Gauge is fine, but you definitely at least want the title rolls, and I would probably take the grasp too.
Wonder why he's choosing to leave the grasp. Maybe I don't think it's because he wants to leave Gauge open to pay for the ultras.
Um, I think the ultras are still around, so they're not awful to have, but so we're seeing at least a CC3. It looks like. Let's see what else ends up hitting that discard.
CC3.
CC3.
It's gonna draw four. Then we'll see some discards here.
Refreshing the threat of Albatross Talon feels really great here with a
Yes,
completely known anchor shot.
I think that's the biggest win of that exchange. I still I feel a little bit weird about the Riptide, the second Riptide. The first Riptide was fine. I don't. I don't necessarily understand as much what the second one accomplished. Um, the difference between 4 and 5 from the anchor shot perspective, I guess, unless he's wanting to leave. Well, I mean, obviously he wasn't at this point because he's discarded the dive, but I'm curious what I'm missing that explains that exchange.
For what it's worth, I'm feeling pretty good for Syrus here because he can do some crazy shenanigans now. Treasure boost for power. Um, I feel like Syrus is going to do some crazy set of plays, and it's probably going to end in a strike.
For sure. Um,
Treasure Knight notably also running out of options in his deck, so this could be a very good strike for Syrus if my overall prediction on the shape of this turn is correct.
yeah, that the fierce boost there actually feels pretty good. Not necessarily even just for the power, but just to get the grasp out of your hand.
Yeah, you
Um,
don't really want to hand Cyrus a free reading. You
and there's enough cards down here that Snake probably has a fairly good idea of what's left in deck, so he'd have made a well-educated guess on what to read in order to connect with what he needed to.
mhm.
Relic playing around that just a little bit.
Getting rid of the tech feels kind of bad here because that tech could have turned into a tech fierce of his own, moving him into range 3 if need be, staying at range 4, or even moving into range 5. But sometimes you got to get rid of liabilities. Advance up to 3 and then move up to 1. Let's see where he ends up if he does end up deciding to boost that.
What is...
Boosting Silver Shadow instead, going to range 3. Will he then decide to go to range 2? This is
Flips?
essentially boosting a fierce of his own while taking a move action, which I kind of love. That threatens Tidal Whirl, and Tidal Whirl is really good here, so I think that is a perfectly fair thing to threaten. With the CC into reshuffle, there's a decent chance he drew it. Will Relic
Whether he drew
call
it
the
or not,
bluff?
he's representing it. So
Yep. Honestly, like it could also just be something on curve, like Treasure's running out of threats, and 6 power assault is pretty great. Run into face. Syrus is notably not very good at range 1, but this also could be another Silver Shadow to go to range 3, and then you discard one of them and you strike with essentially a fierce if that is wanted. So
the other thing he
Syrus
could do
certainly has
is
plays here.
um, he if he just wants out of range one, if he's got a good line on a read here, he can read and as part of the read move to range two.
That he can. There's lots of ways to not be at range 1 and get a strike in some way. Eyeing the reading. Searching the discard pile. This is a very high percent chance of success because there is 1 card in deck and 6 cards in hand. It is permanently getting rid of one of your readings, but when you have 2 stocked, why not?
Yeah, and I mean at this point in the game, we've only got a few strikes left before it's over. I feel like it's probably fine to spend these.
I would definitely agree, especially in a state like this where it has such a high likelihood of working. He goes
Yep.
for it,
Not
probably
gonna
calling something
move.
that is that a treasure hunter?
Hmm.
Nah, you would still move for treasure hunter. What is this then?
Yeah, I don't know.
He nailed the wild swing. That's so unfortunate.
That feels real bad.
Um, let's see what gets played. Depending, I'm not sure what's in deck. Like, I don't know what the last option was.
See what the call was here. What? Red
Red is
focus.
focus, eh? So what is
Focus
that
it.
like?
Focus at
Like a
one.
sweep? Because sweep would have stunned out focus. Sweep stuns out anchor shot also. So that was a play. No, 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 you're stunned. Oops.
That felt like a. That exchange felt very strange to me.
It did.
I don't know what's in Snake's hand, but the decision to stay at range one. I mean, it's sweep, right? So it makes sense on that end, but
I I'm just happy that my ability to assess and read the situation is still intact. Boosting for armor, which after, man, so like
do you? How do you, I don't know about doing this. I think I would have CC'd those normals. You know, you've got a reading. If he's got if he's got a spike in hand, um, he can read either the block or the focus, step back, and stun it out.
he did just ditch a spike, so it is possible that he does not have the second spike in hand. But the playing into that sweep, that was big. That was very big. And surprising, was the read cross there?
Uh, what he read?
No, no, like the read on Relic's part. Why did he play anchor shot? Is kind of what I'm
Oh
trying
yeah,
to figure out.
I'm not certain there. Maybe just trying to tank through some of the damage.
That's fair. That's fair.
Seeing this
8 power
hand though,
sweeps are very good.
if that's what you're doing, if you're just trying to tank through the damage, you play that block. You don't play the anchor launch, especially with the focus being in your deck.
Resets to 3. No movement.
Was that Silver
Um,
Shadow? I was looking at Treasure's hand.
it was run.
Okay.
Representing the Tidal Whirl threat again. It just kind of doesn't lose to the cards that are showing right now, so I think now is a good opportunity to do the big CC to refresh hand and refresh options.
Yeah.
I don't think you leave a single card in this hand.
No. I I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave Snake the opportunity. If I'm Relic, I don't want to leave Snake the opportunity to draw into something he can punish. Um, reading that assault and playing into it with Tidal Whirl would feel pretty awful.
Or even reading assault, play his own assault. It does 6 damage. That still is like 4 free damage.
Oh. Oh nope. Treasure was thinking about going for the read. Maybe still thinking about it.
Syrus only has 8 cards in deck, evidently, so it's not too bad an opportunity to go for it, but you definitely do have to make a play.
Do you read and call the assault here? Maybe thinking down the same lines you were, that reading the assault into the assault would be fine.
Hard to say. I think that kind of face ups that what your intentions are. When you read something like Grasp or Spike, well, Spike is a bad example. If you read something like Grasp It's a little bit less face up. If this reading whiffs, there's a very high likelihood the game is over, but I think if you pass turn to Syrus without doing something, something being either going for the reading or big CC, the game is also very likely over. So
For sure. If I'm treasure, I think the option that I value here is the CC. That's what I lean into. I want to send those 4 into deck and get myself a hand of 5 to try to contend with what Syrus wants to do.
I think I would even CC the gauge. I don't think this is an ultra game for treasure.
Reading. Oh,
Reading, shuffling hand, very important. Setting an attack. Revealing hand, so the reading whiffed. There is indeed a title roll in this hand, so does he just mash title roll? He
the
just
reading was
mashes
assault, so it
title
was
roll.
assault.
So he was going along the same lines as what we were thinking. So this will be a 5 power title roll, so it will stun the 2 armor assault for 3 damage.
And then Snake will get to choose how he wants to position him.
And get a free treasure hunter. Unfortunately, there's nothing that he can read to truly punish the treasure hunter, but or truly punish with treasure hunter rather, but still, man,
So he's reading the block and playing the
going
treasure
for
hunter.
the treasure hunter anyways. That's perfectly fair, honestly.
Puts him at range.
Incredibly.
Puts him at a range that he can threaten the Arya and the Siren that are left in his hand. Makes Treasure spend some resources that he could have otherwise used to fill his hand back up if he wants to keep his life up.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you try to block here? I guess he's gonna go for. Hmm.
Um, treasure's pretty on the ropes now.
Yeah, I don't know if I or him
Just
I'd
just
want to
straight
try to come
prep.
back from this.
Interesting. I think yeah, boosts fierce. That's threatening basically lethal with Arya.
Treasure needs. I don't know what I mean. Even if you run in, if he drew into a cross and he runs in to get out of the Arya and Siren threat, well, you don't get out of the Arya threat.
Yeah, you can't because he can teleport to range 3, discard it, and strike. Getting getting all your transformations live super fast as Syrus is incredibly good. Moving out to range 7,
Maybe forgot about the Silver Shadow instant setup.
hard to say. Um, it is also possible that he drew into something that will save his life at the very least. Let's see what Snake chooses to do. I think it will be to boost Silver Shadow and Strike, but it could just be to boost Silver Shadow and set up like range 4.
It's coming in at +3.
Goes for really? That was a confirm. Oh, but he sets up range 5 and draws another card, and he still can discard it and play the Arya if he wants.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's safer at range 3, but this is still pretty safe. I think with the title roll in hand, I would have just teleported to 3 and played title roll though. Goes for the wild swing. Siren call for
6, 7.
7 damage.
That'll do it.
That is lethal.
And that is
Great
GG for
job, Snake.
Snake
That
taking
was
the set.
excellent Cyrus play on your part. And Relic, it was really enjoyable to watch your treasure knight. I should play him again, but I don't think now is the time for that. Looking for the anchor launch, it seems. It would have traded at least.
Yeah, that game. Compared to the other games in the set, that game felt, even though the life disparity was a little bit closer throughout, I never really felt that Snake lost too much momentum. Getting, like you said, getting all those transforms online super quickly just meant that he kind of got to do what he wanted for the entirety of the game, and he spent that
Cyrus's.
life, right? Like he spent that life to be where he wanted to be and doing what he wanted to do. It wasn't necessarily
Hmm.
huge losses that were outside of his control. It all felt very intentional, which is what you want when you're Syrus.
Another 29 card deck. What is going on here?
I am going to end the recording here. Thank you so much for watching.